All right, let's pick up where we left off. And next on our agenda is to talk about ontology. Now, ontology is a fancy, well, I don't know if it's fancy or not, but it's a word that means the logi of the ontos, the study or the discourse, really the discourse, the logical discourse about ontos or being. Being. Now, what is so special about this word being? There's this passage in Plato that goes something like, "For manifestly you have long understood what you mean by the word being. We, however, who used to understand it, have now become perplexed." Let me repeat that. "For manifestly you seem to have long understood what you mean by the phrase being, but we, however, who used to understood it, have now become perplexed." Now this it's quite Plato, so Plato's already pretty famous on his own, but it was made even more famous by this other philosopher in the 20th century who quotes it at the beginning of his work on being and time, written shortly after Einstein's theory of relativity came out. So in light of Einstein's theory of general relativity and the relationship between space and time, or matter and energy, space and time, matter and energy, then much of philosophy had to be rethought or reimagined, particularly in the West, where it tended to fall into sort of dualistic patterns, particularly a dualism between matter and energy, or body and mind, that sort of thing. But anyway, this philosopher gives that quotation from Plato: "For manifestly you have long understood what you mean by the word being, but we, however, who used to understand it, have now become perplexed." Like, what does it mean? What does this word being mean? Who asks those kind of questions? What's the meaning of being? And why would I put meaning of being as like a subsection under one lecture in one course, which is really about the study of religion and theology, isn't it? Why are we even talking about this stuff at all? Well, I will tell you why, and hopefully you will understand it as we go along. But to begin, let's do our phenomenological method. Let's put it into action again. So what is the phenomenological method? Step 1 is to draw a circle. I always do that, screw up. Step 0 is to draw a circle. Well, I've done that. Step 1 is to identify your perspectival starting point. Well, you know me pretty well by this point. It's only lesson 3, but I think you're getting a gist of who the hell I am. Next is to vaguely identify what is that thing in the center. What do we mean? What is this thing that we're investigating? Well, in this case, we're investigating this word being, right? Or more simply, is, right? So let's put is at the center of the circle. What kind of questions are these, Dr. Bannon? Who asks these kind of questions? What is? What is the meaning of is? How many different perspectives of is could we be? We use the word is every day, right? Don't you use the word is every day? You've probably used the word is in the last hour like 5 different times. And you've probably used it in lots of different ways, right? We use the word is all the time, and we use it in lots of different ways. We use it in lots of different ways. We use the word is in lots of different ways, right? So if we're going to proceed logically, proceeding in consistency, in conformity to the first law of logic, which is the law of identity, or clearly defining your terms in ways that are non-equivocal, or using the same word to mean multiple different things. Don't worry about that. In order to clearly define our terms, we have to use the terms in one particular way, clearly identify what that way is, and be particular and clear about it, right? Including and especially the word is, which, let's be frank, is pretty damn important, right? This is an important word. How are some of the ways that we use the word? If we grant the fact that we do use this word in a variety of different ways because we use it so often, what are some of those ways? Let's think of some sentences. Damn, I forgot my cup. So, what are some of the ways that we use this word is? Well, one of them, let me give you one of them. Now, if we were in the classroom, you would see me every single day, logging into work, sometimes showered, sometimes not, and I would always be carrying this this thermos, right? And I'm like, I don't know.
I'm picking out a thermos for you.
Like, I like this thermos. And I usually carry this thermos because I'm a cheap asshole. And so I bring it filled with coffee because I don't want to buy coffee. So I make my own coffee. And then I bring it in this thermos. And it always has this cup on top. And to be honest, I never use this cup because this cup is freaking small. Who would use this cup? So I grab a big thermos and I pour from this thermos into that thermos. So I don't really use the cup as anything other than, well, a cap, I guess, but also primarily as an example in class whenever I teach ontology, which I'm doing right now. And so I'm going to use the cup again right now. So one of the ways we use the word is by saying things like, this is a cup. This is a cup. One of the ways we use the word is by saying, this is a cup. This is a cup, right? Let's see. It's a cup. This is a cup. Write that down. Right. I use the word is, this. This is a cup. All right, but before we kind of dive into that and try to psychoanalyze that and overthink that the way I do everything else, let's get some more examples on the board. All right, how about another example? Here's one that's very common in Indian philosophy and Indian theology. It's just a sort of like a standard go-to that they use a lot. The lotus is blue. Now, lotus here doesn't mean, that super hot car, right? It doesn't mean the race car, but instead lotus is a type of flower. So the lotus is blue. In French, it's padme. So the lotus is blue. Now, in this case, is linking a noun, lotus, with a particular quality, right? Blue is a quality. So lotus is a noun and blue is a quality. So the lotus is blue. It has the quality of being blue, right? It is possessive of blueness. Howdy, y'all. It's Future Brad jumping in here just to explain what the hell this guy is talking about and some things that he left out, particularly regarding this little blue thingy. So the lotus is blue. So we've got a noun that's being qualified or described by a quality. Now let's think about one more example that I should have given in the original lecture, which is 2 plus 2 is 4. So here we can replace the equal sign with the word is. And due to the transitive property, 4 is 2 plus 2, right? So the is, it doesn't matter where we put the is, it can function just as well, regardless of whether we put the 2 plus 2 first or the 4 first, right? So 2 plus 2 is 4, or 4 is 2 plus 2. But we can't do the same thing with the word is in a sentence that's describing a quality. So we can say the lotus is blue. The noun is this quality, but we can't say the quality is this noun, right? Blue is the lotus. On the other hand, as many Indian philosophers point out, blue can only exist as something that is blue, such as the lotus, right? So in other words, qualities need beings in order to be, because qualities are transcendentals. They are abstractions. So blue only exists insofar as something is blue, but when we can talk about blue as a transcendental, as an abstraction, and we can understand what each other's talking about. But as soon as we say something like blue is the lotus, then we recognize that there's a logical mistake going on there. Let's go to a totally different kind of example, right? Way far away from any of these kind of things. I'm actually going to show you a video clip right now. All right, so this clip, so let's see this clip.
He told me you killed him. No, I am your father.
I probably should have given a spoiler alert first, but anyway, so in that clip we see, Darth Vader say to Luke Skywalker, "I am your father." Now, you may or may not know, but in German, in German, father is Vader, right? So Vader, father, Vader. So Darth Vader, the Dark Father. So it kind of gives it to you right there in the name, right? But the Father. So I am your Father. Now, obviously, this isn't the word is. The word being conjugates, or the verb to be conjugates in a number of different ways. I am, you are, he, she, it is, they are, we are, all of us are. Or the past participle is being, or the ongoing activity of being. The present participle is being. So Luke, I am your father. Now, what does he mean, I am your father? Here, he's not describing a particular quality, like I am tall or I am father or something, right? But instead, he's giving a formal definition. He's just saying, Luke, I have the form. I meet the standards of what is considered fatherness, right? I have given birth. I've donated my sperm, and Padme, your mom and I had a really fun night one night, and you're the product of that, right? So I am your sperm donor, right? I am your sperm donor. I meet the formal definition of what a father is in terms of form, right? If we were to give a form of fatherness, well, one of the forms of fatherness is donating sperm and having some genetic similarity, well, a particular kind of genetic similarity to one's offspring, right? So in order to be a father, there must be a child, and the child is child with respect to that father, and the father is father with respect to that child. So in this sense, there's a formal relationship. The relationship has the form of parentage, and I have the form of father, you have the form of my son, right? So Luke, I am your father. You get it, right? Form, it's quite different than this whole lotus is blue stuff, right? That's a different meaning of the word is. All right, whatever. Let's look at another clip. So here's another clip.
I think it's time I told you something I should have told you a long time ago.
Okay.
You might have been kind of adopted.
I knew it.
All right, so in this clip, spoiler alert, whatever. Spoiler alert, these movies have been out for a while, you've probably seen them, right? But spoiler alert, the goose in Kung Fu Panda is not the biological father of the panda, right? So Po doesn't find that out until Kung Fu Panda 2, and when he does, his father reveals to him, Po, I am not your biological father. And he's like, well, I'm a goose, and you're not a goose, right? So we've got a few examples. This is a cup. We'll come back to that one. The lotus is blue, which is indicating a particular quality. Luke, I am your father, which is certainly pointing to its particular formal ontology, or an ontology of form. I am not your father. Po, I am not your father. When Mr. Ping says that, he's also using the notion of father in the same way. I am not your father with respect to form, right? But let's look a little bit more at this clip.
How did I get here, Dad? Where did I come from?
I waited for someone to come looking for you, but no one did. I brought you inside. Fed you. Gave you a bath. And fed you again. And again.
Okay, so in this case, notice a lot of things. There's a lot of things that are good in this clip. But one of them is that Po says, how did I get here, Dad? How did I get here, Dad. How did I get here, Dad? How did I get here, Dad? Right? That's exactly what it is. How did I get here, Dad? How did I get here, comma, Dad, right? So Dad is referring to his father, who's not his father, as Dad, right? And he comes to understand Mr. Ping through the course of this movie, and as you saw particularly in that clip, that Mr. Ping was performing the activities of being a father, right? He was taking responsibility as father. He was living into those responsibilities. He was taking responsibility, and he was performing the actions of being a father. So in this case, we might paraphrase a little bit, where Poe is saying, Dad, you are my dad, right? Dad, how did I get here? Dad, where did I come from? Dad, what's my origin story? What's my cosmogonic myth? That's a couple lessons for now. We're going to get to that cosmogonic myth. But in this case, what is my cosmogonic myth? Dad, who am I? Dad, how did I get here? Dad. And then we see that clip, that little montage of Mr. Ping taking care of Poe, washing him, bathing him, feeding him, taking care of him, giving him dumplings, right? And raising him, doing all of the things that are required in order to be a father or a dad, right? So Mr. Ping, you are my dad. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. So in this case, we have quite a different usage of the word is. When we were to say, Mr. Ping, if we were to say Mr. Ping is Poe's father, not because he adheres to some particular formal definition or formal ontology or some sort of criteria of historical events, right? He does not meet the standards of those historical or biological events that are required to formally ontologize someone as father, right? In order to do that, one must, have a fun night, roll in the hay or whatever, right? So those good, all you need in order to be a father in that formal sense is, just ejaculate at some point in the right spot. But in order to be a father, being a father requires far more than that. It requires taking the responsibility. And this is an ongoing process of a series of actions that are performed in order to meet the function of being a father. So, importantly, we would note this is not a formal ontology, as these other ones are, but instead, we're looking now at a functional ontology. I shouldn't talk while I'm writing. Previously, we've seen a formal ontology, right? So we've seen now 3 different uses of the word is. The lotus is blue, which is linking a noun to a particular quality. Then we've seen I am your father, says by Darth Vader, Luke, I am your father, or Poe, I am not your father. In both of those senses, father is carrying this formal sense of to be or to is fatherness. To be a father is to meet certain historical and biological criteria, a set of historical circumstances that meet the formal definition of what it means to be within a particular category, right? Then we have a very different usage of the word is. When we say Mr. Ping is Poe's father, why is he Poe's father? Not because he meets some sort of formal criteria, but instead because he is performing the function of being a father, right? Because he meets the criteria of being, right, in this temporal, ongoing, processive time, right? I am being a father because I am taking responsibility right now and performing the actions of bathing my children, feeding my children, teaching my kids, whatever. If I am performing the functions of being a father, then I am functionally and ontologically fathering those children. Right? So we have ontology based on quality, we have an ontology based on form, and we have an ontology based on function. Let's get one more very quickly. The man is running. Right? So the man is running. Now, let me pause it. This quick story time. Everybody in my class knows story time. There's a lot of stories that I tell in class that I couldn't really tell on recorded, published media, so I can't tell you all the stories here. But this is a story I can tell, which I don't usually tell in class. When I was a kid, I can remember my dad running once. That's right. In my entire life, I can remember once when my dad ran. Once. And even then, it was like so brief. It was just like passing. It's like, did that really happen? But I remember I was standing in the kitchen with my sisters and my mom, and we were just standing around talking. Well, I mean, they were talking, and I was just listening to them talk. But and all of a sudden I saw something run by the window, and I looked outside, and I was like, I think Dad just ran past the window, but I didn't dare not say that for fear of being laughed at. So I just looked outside and was like, did I see Dad run past the window? And then I saw Dad run past window in the other direction just a minute or so later, and I was like, oh, Dad's running! Dad's running! And I screamed, Dad's running! And instead of everybody running to find out, what's going on, we all just ran to the window to watch Dad running, because we'd never seen him run before. It turned out that, an umbrella had melted and then caught on fire, and then his pickup truck was in flames and just, sort of melting and burning from the inside out, and he was running to get a water hose. And so he did manage to extinguish it, and it didn't do too much damage, but yeah, the truck bed was melted and smelled like burning plastic for, the next, 10, 12 years. Anyway, the man is running. Now, this running is something that happens at a particular moment, right? The running, if I say the man is running, there's a possibility that by the time I finish saying the sentence, the man is running, maybe the man stopped running, right? Maybe he's running, and I was like, the man is run. Oh, he stopped, right? Or the man is running, and then you look, and then you say he's not running. I'm like, yeah, well, he was when I said it, or he was when I started saying it, right? Because the running is a temporal activity, right? It happens at a particular time. So in this case, the is super finite, right? The is as temporal as one's breath, right? I am breathing in. I am breathing out, right? As we did with the in-so meditation. So this temporality, this ongoing is activity, indicates the immediacy of temporality, right? That being, in order to be, you need the ing, right? It's an ongoing process, and it could end at any time, right? That's what it means to be, as long as I have being, I recognize the possibility or the inevitable possibility that I will stop being at some point, and then we're doing philosophy. But right now, we're just trying to get a sense of this word is, and here we have an ontology of temporality, right? So we've got ontology of quality, an ontology of form, an ontology of function, and now an ontology of temporal activity, right? Temporal activity. Something that is going on right now. Now, in this sense, you could also apply this to a particular kind of function, right? To be a running man, a man who is running, to be a running man means to have the function of running, right? So I could say, oh, I'm a running man, but if I'm not running, then I'm not a running man, right? I may be someone who's prone to running, which I really am not, but, and in my defense, it's obviously genetic. My dad doesn't run, and I don't run. I get it, Dad. So, got it now? The various, oh wait, no, this is a cup. We got to come back to that one. So this is a cup. All right, so one of the ways I used to teach this, and nobody ever really got it, I don't think, but, I would say, is this a cup? And people would say yes, and I would say, is this a cup? And people would say yes. And then I would say it's not. But it's because I didn't teach them what functional ontology is, right? In order to be a cup, something doesn't need to have a particular form in terms of shape, nor does it have to, this is just a collection of atoms, right? Arranged in a particular form or a shape conducive to fulfilling a particular function, right? So we call this a cup because it has a form conducive to performing a particular function. And when it performs that function, it is performing that temporal activity of serving that function, right? So it is being a cup when it is being used as a cup. Now, when I say, is this a cup? And people say yes, and I say, this is a cup, and I'm arguing no. In fact, it is formally, it's identical, right? It's still just a collection of atoms arranged in this particular shape or something that we're accustomed to calling a cup and saying this is a cup, or this deserves or belongs or qualifies as being a cup because of its form, but it only has that form and earns that name because that form is conducive to performing a particular function. So if it is upside down, it cannot perform that function because the function is to hold liquids, right? To form as a vessel for holding particular, any kind of liquids, right? So long as it is performing that function or able to perform that function, then it is that thing in terms of its functional ontology. And the only reason it gets this formal ontology of being a cup is because it is able to perform that function. And when it is disoriented or upside down, right, not oriented properly, then it is less able to perform that function, or in fact unable to perform that function. So therefore it no longer is a cup because it no longer has the form conducive to performing that function, right? So here it has the same shape, but it is a shape that is unable to perform the function of being a cup. Whereas here it has the same shape, but it now has the shape oriented such that it can fulfill its function of being a cup. Who cares, right? Who cares? Well, let's think more clearly about how we're using the word cup, or how we might use the word cup in terms of a functional ontology. So I could cup my hands, right? And turn my hands into a cup. If I didn't have a cup, then I could cup my hands, and then my hands could be a cup for me, right? Then I could drink from them. I could put water in them and I could drink from them. Or, if you're like a junior or senior in college, then, you could always, if you didn't have a cup, you could always use a freshman's belly button, right? So then the freshman's belly button in that case becomes a cup because it can serve the function of being a vessel, right? So you can pour liquids into it and then drink liquids out of it, right? Or students a few years ago asked me about a shoe, right? Could you use I have a friend who uses a shoe to drink beer. Well, if it is performing the function of being a cup, then it is performing the function of being a cup, and therefore is a cup because it is being a cup, right? It doesn't matter how the atoms are arranged or what the material is or what color it is or what shape it is. It only matters whether it is oriented in such a way that it can perform the function of being that thing, right? So a father isn't a father just because they had a fun night with Padme. By the way, Padme is a Sanskrit word that means lotus. But it's not just because Anakin and Padme had a fun evening one time that makes him his father. That's why Luke is so in denial and says, no, you're not my father. My father died, right? As Obi-Wan Kenobi told him, no, your father died. Darth Vader killed your father because your father died, right? He is no longer he is not being your father. He has the form of your father. He has the genetic evidence of being your father, but he is not being or performing the function, the actions necessary in order to earn that title of being Father in terms of its functional ontology, particularly not in terms of his temporal activity in the here and now. Likewise, the cup. So the point then would be, if we want to be careful with our terms, and if we want to define religion clearly, as we're going to do in the next lesson, then we need to discuss whether, when we're trying to define religion, are we defining religion in terms of a particular form that it meets our criteria of what we consider to be, formally religious, or is it performing a particular function? And then anything that performs that function, whether it's a cup made out of, plastic and metal, or a cup made out of our hands, or a cup made out of a freshman's belly button, or a cup made out of a shoe. It doesn't matter so long as it can perform that function. So if it performs the function of whatever we define religion as what does religion do? If it meets that criteria, then it's performing the function of being religious. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about, the Gospel of John or the Constitution, right? All right, I know that this can all get super abstract. It can get abstract. Well, I mean, it is abstract, right? But it can feel especially abstract in the classroom. And if it feels that abstract in the classroom, how much more abstract must it feel for people watching this video? It's so weird to think that I'm recording this now and you might be... It's all weird. In terms of temporality and activity and ontology, it's just weird. Let's say, in terms of ontology, let's just apply all this stuff, right? It's so abstract, then let's try and make it a little bit more tangible, right? As tangible as music might be. So let's ask this question: what is music? Or I don't want to ask what is music, because that sounds like a music theory kind of question that you would ask in music class. But instead, what does it mean for music to be? That's what the question I want to ask. What does it mean for music to exist, to be? When we say music exists, what do we mean, right? And to make it less, I thought I was making it less abstract. This sounds like more abstract, right? But to make it less abstract, let's talk about Stravinsky's Rite of Spring Symphony, the Igor Stravinsky's Rite of Spring Symphony, ballet, whatever you want to call it. Right? What does it mean for it to be? What does it mean for it to exist?